terrorist strike on 3 continents with attacks in Tunisia, France, and Kuwait. Dozens are killed. Mourners are paying their final respects to a South Carolina state senator killed in last week's massacre. And an Israeli newspaper just says no to body-altering software. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Terrorism erupted on 3 continents Friday with deadly results. In North Africa, at least 27 people were killed in Tunisia, including foreign tourists, when at least 1 gunman opened fire on a seaside resort. In the Middle East, Kuwait was hit with an attack after a suicide bomber blew himself up at a packed Shia Muslim mosque in Kuwait City during Friday prayers. At least 10 people were killed. And in Europe, a decapitated body covered in Arabic writing was found at a U.S. gas company in southeastern France. The European Union foreign policy chief says the attacks in France and in the Arab world demand global unity as a response.
This attack shows that we are together, the target. Arabs, Europeans, Muslims, non-Muslims, we are together. We are on the same page, we are on the same boat. I just exchanged a few messages with some of my friends, foreign ministers of the Arab region. The fact that the attacks in the same day take place in Europe and in the Arab world, paradoxically, lead to the opposite effect of that terrorists want. Instead of dividing us, show us very clearly that we have to be united. So the response will be more unity, and expressing very clearly that what we need is an alliance of civilization, and that there is no way in which a religion can be misused to turn us apart. We are united. Islam also belongs to Europe, and our European values also belong to the Arab world.
Now, more details on the deadly attack in Tunisia. Tunisian officials say at least 27 people, including foreign tourists, were killed when at least 1 gunman opened fire Friday on people on a beach near the Imperial Mahaba Hotel in the city of Sousse. Officials also say security forces responded to the attack and that at least 1 gunman is among the dead. An assault rifle was found by his side. Another gunman fled from the scene and is reportedly still on the run. Tunisia has been on high alert since March when an Islamist militant gunman attacked the Bordeaux Museum in Tunis, killing a group of foreign tourists in one of the worst terrorist attacks in many years in Tunisia. While in Kuwait, a suicide blast has killed at least 10 worshippers attending Friday prayers at a Shia mosque. We get more in this report from Sean Cadbury of Reuters.
A witness says an estimated 2,000 worshippers were kneeling in prayer when a suicide bomber entered the mosque and blew himself up. The bomber was described as a man in his 20s. The Islamic State militant group is claiming responsibility for the attack in a statement posted on social media. The statement says the target was a, quote, temple of rejectionists, a term used by the Sunni Islamist group to describe Shiites. The Sunni militants have been targeting Shiites in Iraq and Syria, as well as Saudi Arabia and Yemen, but this is the first attack on a Shiite mosque in Kuwait. The oil-rich country has a large Shiite minority, but has avoided the sectarian tensions experienced in neighboring countries.
French President François Hollande says he is raising the security alert to the highest level for 3 days in southeastern region where a suspect attacked an American gas factory. A local businessman was found decapitated at the factory site and 2 others were wounded. Banners were found carrying Arabic inscriptions. French police say they have the main suspect in custody along with the suspect's wife and others. Hollande says the key question is to determine whether there were any accomplices. International condemnation of the attack came swiftly. British Prime Minister David Cameron expressed his feelings for the victims.
Our hearts all go out to the victims of these appalling terrorist acts. I spoke to President Hollande at the European Council and offered my sympathy and our solidarity with the French people at this time. I hope to speak later with the Tunisian government and again offer our sympathies and condolences and our solidarity in fighting this evil of terrorism.
Well, French officials say a terrorism investigation into the attacks is underway. Now to East Africa, where more than 70 people were killed when Al-Shabaab militants attacked and seized control of an African Union peacekeeping base in southern Somalia on Friday. A military official said a cab bomb first rammed into the AU base, prompting the AU soldiers to open fire, after which a heavy exchange of gunfire ensued. Somali officials said the slain peacekeepers were from Burundi. The attack in Lagos, some 130 kilometers south of the capital Mogadishu, came as residents gathered for morning prayers. Well, for more on the Somali attacks, VOA's Abdulaziz Bilo joins us by phone from Mogadishu. Abdulaziz, first tell us, when this attack happened, had there been any indications or reports that there is a threat?
Well, to be honest, the government of Somalia, together with its partners, basically the African Union mission to Somalia, AMISOM forces, have been on high alert ever since the beginning of this holy month of Ramadan, because the Al-Shabaab vowed to increase their attacks against government institutions, government forces, as well as the Somalia allies. So basically, there was no direct indication that the base would be attacked, but the security forces and AMISOM had put up, they were aware that of an impending attack the Al-Shabaab were going to wage, because their spokesman said that they are going to launch deadly attacks on the government and all its allies together.
Now, we know that in the past, Al-Shabaab has attacked mostly soft targets. What do you make of these attacks on a military base of the African Union forces?
Well, the government of Somalia and AMISOM are saying that they have overpowered the Al-Shabaab they have dislodged them out of their bases in south-central Somalia, and they've also disconnected them from all the port cities to the south and to the southern part of the country. But you find that this is a changing trend, because the Al-Shabaab used to attack soft targets like government ministries, like hotels. But now you find that they are confronting the African Union forces in the fields and also in their base camp. So you see that the Al-Shabaab is slowly regaining power in parts of the country, since they also overran other bases that were under the Somali government in the past month in southern Somalia as well.
Now, are you able to confirm that those who were killed were mostly Burundian soldiers?
Well, so far we did not confirm yet, but there's a press statement that has just been delivered by the African Union Mission to Somalia AMISOM Press Center, where the head of the African Union Mission to Somalia, Ambassador Maman Sidiku, he has expressed his condolences to the soldiers who he described were mainly from the Burundian contingent, who were killed in the Lego attack today in the morning.
Now, you did mention that another base was overrun. Is there perhaps some indication that the African Union forces are kind of losing the grip on the situation in Somalia?
Well, to be honest, the African Union forces and the Somali government, in the past month, they have launched a series of attacks that has destroyed the Al-Shabaab out of all their bases in south-central Somalia and disconnected them from the port city. But the Al-Shabaab wants to get media limelight, and they want to show the world that they still exist. And the only way that they can prove to the world they exist is if they can attack a military base that is highly protected, highly secured, like Lego. Bearing in mind that they also attacked the biggest African Union headquarters in Mogadishu in December last year. So they will try their best to hide their defeat through attacking big bases like whatever they did today in the morning and killed all the soldiers they killed today.
Okay, Abdulaziz, thank you very much. VOA's Abdulaziz Bilo reporting live from Mogadishu. Now, U.S. President Barack Obama delivers a eulogy Friday at the funeral of South Carolina State Senator Clementa Pinckney, one of 9 people killed by a white gunman inside an historic African-American church where he was the pastor. Africa 54's Esther Githui-Ewart has the story.
Many people paid their final respects to Pinckney during a wake at his Charleston church Thursday night. The pastor and 8 others were killed by a white gunman in an apparent hate attack following Bible study at Mother Emanuel AME Church last week. Earlier Thursday, hundreds of mourners attended the first 2 funerals for the victims, including services for 70-year-old Ethel Lance.
You know, most people in death don't get to represent a symbol. She and those 9 other victims get to. She gets to represent something that we all know is there, which is hate, right? She was a victim of hate. And she can be a symbol for love. That's what she was in life.
Love's triumph over hate is a recurring theme in Charleston since 20-year-old alleged gunman Daylan Rolfe shattered the lives of so many people and got the attention of the nation.
Well, I think that just as the killing of Dr. King in 1968 was a transformative moment, this can be a transformative moment. This can be a before and after the massacre at Mother Emanuel.
Response to the racially fueled killings is already taking shape, with some southern states deciding to remove the rebel battle flag used as a symbol of white supremacy from state property. The man accused of the mass killings is an admitted racist who has been pictured holding the Confederate battle flag. Meantime, funerals for 6 remaining victims are expected in the coming days. Esther Githu-Ewart, VOA News, Washington.
Well, now, a European Union leaders meeting in Brussels Friday reached a voluntary agreement to relocate 40,000 migrants arriving in Italy and Greece to other EU states over the next 2 years.
We decided today, for the first time after a long period, to invest in a different approach, in comprehensive approach, focused on the resettlement and the relocation of a part of these women and men who arrive in the Italian coasts, in Greek coasts, and in the European frontiers.
Well, Italy and Greece are currently bearing the brunt of the responsibility as thousands of migrants fleeing poverty and war from North Africa and the Middle East are rescued weekly from rickety boats in the Mediterranean Sea near the 2 countries' coastlines. Thousands of migrants have died in the Mediterranean crossing. Some pay human traffickers who often abandon them at sea. While Burundi's political crisis escalated on Friday when the opposition said it will boycott upcoming elections. The group of 17 opposition parties said they would boycott elections in protest at the president's bid for a 3rd term and over concerns voting will not be fair. A parliamentary election is due to take place on Monday, with the presidential vote to follow on July the 15th. Both have already been pushed back after weeks of protests. Burundi's Foreign Affairs Minister Alain Nyamwite told VOA the vote will go ahead as planned.
We have an election which is coming up. We believe that for us to hold that election is very important because it allows us to provide the country with elected institutions so that we do not plunge into chaos.
Well, dozens of people have been killed in the unrest, and the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, said on Friday almost 127,000 people had fled to neighboring states, many citing fears about election-related violence. Well, I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. Check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, Nubians in Kenya face land challenges. Stay with us.
From science and technology, here's What's New.
What's new is the winner of the DARPA Robotics Challenge, Team South Korea. The contest, sponsored by the Pentagon, is an effort to develop robots that may someday help when catastrophe strikes. Gil Pratt is with the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
This is really about trying to make robots effective for helping first responders in emergencies, particularly when there's a disaster, that you can make the disaster less severe.
This robotics contest in Pomona, California, was an idea born from the rubble of the 2011 meltdown of the Fukushima nuclear power plant in Japan. Here's Gil Pratt.
If robots had been available back then, they could have gone in there and made the disaster much less severe.
The South Korean team won $2 million, beating 22 other teams, but it's going to be a while before any of these robots are, well, ready for prime time. VOA's What's New, I'm Todd Grosshans.
Well, originally from Sudan, Nubian people who migrated to Kenya are facing hardships, including the loss of lands they have lived on for generations. They said the government has not kept its promise to award them title deeds for the land, and many face eventual eviction. Eleni Ruvaga has more from Nairobi.
Businesswoman Hamida Mala Hassan attends to her customers in Kibera, a place she calls home. It is Kenya's largest informal settlement. On average, she makes a profit of $200. However, hers is a unique case. Being Nubian, Mala Hassan has faced lots of challenges in applying for citizenship in Kenya. The Kenyan identity card enables one to be officially recognized as a citizen by the government, and without it, getting services is hard. According to Mala Hassan, her community is held back by this lack of recognition in Kenya.
You don't have security of tenure. You cannot take loans, bearing in mind that loans are taken with guarantees. If you don't have title deed, you don't have guarantees for bigger loans, whereby you need to develop, you need, the bigger the loan, the bigger the potential, definitely. So those are some of the limitations we have as a community. We cannot develop.
Mala Hassan is one of approximately 100,000 Nubians in the country. A century ago, Nubian soldiers and their families who worked for the British colonial army were settled in Kibera. However, they never owned the land in any formal way. Today, Nubians living in Kibera don't possess deeds to the land that was originally theirs and face eviction. Shafi Ali Hussein is a human rights advocate of Nubian descent who has been fighting for the rights of his fellow Nubians for the last 10 years. Through the Nubian Rights Forum, Hussein has been lobbying the government to award not only citizenship rights to the Nubians, but also grant them a communal title deed to the land in Kibera.
Statelessness became over the challenge of someone getting the documents, such as ID card. When a Nubian goes for an ID card, he or she will be asked to bring so many documents. And the law stated very clear, you can come with only one parent document.
The country's National Land Commission has been tasked with undertaking land reforms in a bid to rectify historical injustices. However, Dr. Mohamed Swazuri, the chairman of the National Land Commission, downplayed the situation, refuting claims by the Nubians on their statelessness.
They may not have title deeds, but there are many other Kenyans who have no title deeds, and you can't call them stateless. These still are Kenyans. Not everybody is expected to have and own a parcel of land. So without a title, it doesn't mean you are stateless.
But for many of the Nubians in Kibera, the struggle continues. Lenny Ruvaga for VOA News, Nairobi, Kenya.
Well, people who are missing a hand or an arm traditionally would have to pay thousands of dollars and wait for weeks for an artificial one called a prosthesis. But 3D printing is providing a much cheaper and faster alternative. 3D printed hands are especially changing the lives of children around the world. One such child lives in a town just south of Los Angeles. Elizabeth Lee reports.
A hand like this has many names. Superhero hand, even robot hand. Faith Lennox says her friends at school think it's really cool.
They want a robot hand too.
Faith's arm was amputated when she was 9 months old. She's now almost 8.
When she was born, somehow the circulation to her left forearm got cut off, causing something called compartment syndrome.
Through an online support group, Faith's mother, Nicole, heard about an organization called Enable that uses 3D printers to create free prosthetic hands for children around the world. She also met Mark Langsfeld, the owner of Builded Workspace, a place that does engineering and design work. Nicole Lennox asked if Langsfeld could print her daughter a prosthetic hand.
We just looked at it as, well, it's printing a part. Why not? I mean, if it's a prosthetic hand or a bracket,
it's a part.
With the help of designs and instructions from the Enable website, Langsfeld printed and assembled the device.
Wow, let's try this, see what this is, what it is all about, and also how we can help a little girl, ride a bike ultimately.
Mark Sorkeo specializes in making and fitting traditional prosthetic limbs.
3D printing versus traditional could save a lot of time, a lot of hours, a lot of manpower.
A traditional prosthesis like this one will take 1 to 2 months to make and fit, and it costs thousands of dollars. On the other hand, a 3D printed device like this one could take as little as just a few days to print and assemble. And Enable says it can cost as little as $30. The organization also makes and sends devices of different sizes overseas so local doctors can distribute them.
I believe that 3D printing will enable these people to receive prosthetic devices and also change the way that they live their lives and also change the way that they can provide for their families.
In a Skype interview, Enable's John Wong says there are also psychological benefits.
I myself was born, missing fingers, and so I was teased and bullied when I was in school. And so I know all too well, what sort of issues children go through.
Nicole Lennox says she has definitely seen a change in her daughter with her robot hand.
It's opened so many doors for her and just built so much confidence. It's really touching.
I can hold on to my bike handle and sit up nice and tall.
And if Faith outgrows or breaks a piece of her robot hand, she just has to print a new one. Yep. Elizabeth Lee for VOA News, Los Angeles.
All done.
Faith.
Really cool. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. An Israeli newspaper champions a natural look for models. We'll be right back.
كان يعتبر أن قطاع السياحة هو شكل من أشكال الدعارة. إذا هناك نوع من الشحن لبعض الشبان المغرر بهم.
Jeder muss, glaube ich, seinen Beitrag dazu leisten.
Commission has found that Lonmin did not use its best endeavor.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. U.S. President Barack Obama and Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton took to the Twitter on Friday to call the Supreme Court's ruling on gay marriage historic and a big step for the U.S. The White House official Twitter icon received a facelift, turning from white to rainbow-colored to mark gay pride. The Supreme Court ruled that the U.S. Constitution provides same-sex couples the right to marry, handing a historic triumph to the American gay rights movement. The ruling is the Supreme Court's most important expansion of marriage rights in the United States since its landmark 1967 ruling in the case of Loving versus Virginia that struck down state laws barring interracial marriages. Well, next up, videos posted to social media showed the moment a rare celestial phenomenon dazzled in the skies of the northern United States earlier this week. The aurora was so intense it was visible from Minnesota. In northern latitudes, the northern lights are usually only visible in Canada, Alaska, and northern Europe, but they were seen as far south as Washington, D.C. In the southern hemisphere, reports from Australia said the southern lights, usually only visible in Tasmania, were visible across much of the country. NASA astronaut Scott Kelly was also able to capture stunning images of the northern lights on camera from space. Well, and finally, could this Israeli newspaper editorial decision spark a new trend where Yeridot Harod is championing the natural look? The publication has announced that it's changing its image and stopping the use of Photoshop on its models' bodies. The paper will continue to allow digital touch-ups on models' face, but it says the banning Photoshop on bodies will promote a healthier, more natural look. The newspaper made its decision following legislative changes in Israel that seek to limit the use of underweight models in fashion shoots and advertisements. The law, which went into effect in 2013, also requires publications to state when images are being altered digitally. And that is what is trending today. Well, it's time for a sports update, and here's Sonny Young with the sunny side of sports. Sonny, it's all about NBA, right?
All about the NBA, Vincent. Sporty greetings once again to our Africa 54 viewers. Let's tip off in New York City, where the National Basketball Association held its annual draft of college and international players. The Minnesota Timberwolves had the top pick, and they took big man Karl Anthony Towns from the University of Kentucky. Emmanuel Mudiay, a 19-year-old point guard from the Democratic Republic of Congo, was the 7th pick by the Denver Nuggets. Emmanuel played professionally last season in China, and he talks about going to the NBA.
It's definitely a blessing. I know my life's going to change, but it kind of already changed in a perspective because I played professional last year, so I kind of made that transition. But I mean, this is the NBA, it's different. But I kind of am used to like the press, all that stuff. So just because I played 1 year in professional in China, it was the same way. The only difference, I had a translator right here next to me. But other than that, basketball-wise, I'm confident. I'm just go in there, work hard, and do what I can do.
That's Kinshasa-born basketball player Emmanuel Mudiay. Let's give a belated Sunny Side of Sports birthday salute to another Kinshasa-born basketball player, Dikembe Mutombo. Dikembe, who we see on the right, celebrated his 49th birthday on Thursday, and he received some birthday wishes from the big man on his left, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Dikembe will officially join Kareem in the Basketball Hall of Fame on September 11th. I'm VOA's Sonny Young, and that's the Sunny Side of Sports, sending the ball back to Vincent Makori.
Well, thank you very much, Sonny, and be sure to watch the Sunny Side of Sports every Monday and Friday right here on Africa 54. That's our show for today. Be sure to get up to the minute coverage of the terror attacks in North Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. Be sure to visit voasnews.com for more news. Tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings today, Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching from all of us in Washington. Have a good night.
Music is something that brings people together.
Music educates, it motivates, it's a bridge.
Music. Ali.
On.
VOA.
qubanaha VOA waxaan ku soo gudbinnaa qubanayaal goosgoosa oo xiiso badan oo ku saabsan arrimaha Soomaaliya, Maraykanka iyo caalamkaba.
haddaba qubanaha VOA-da kala soco website-keenna voasomali.com.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report.
I'm Milar Sega. I'm the host of VOA's The Correspondents, a roundup of the world's top stories.
Here's a false choice in more ways than one.
We can't actually put you there, but we can come pretty close. In 30 minutes, we'll show you the world.